Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I'm so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Today, we have Mr. Tony Kamel, all the way from west of Austin, Texas, correct?
Dripping Springs, Texas, baby.
Dripping Springs. Born and raised then, or where have we?
I was born and raised in Houston, and I came to Austin for college in the early 2000s and just never left.
So Houston, I mean, how often do you go back to that city then now?
Pretty often. My mom is there, and I have a brother and a sister there, and another brother here in Dripping Springs with me. But yeah, and a bunch of my old friends are still there. We keep in touch, and I try to go back as often as I can, many times a year, 5 to 6 times a year or so.
I mean, I assume Texas, and living down there has a huge influence on your songwriting, but like, do you feel like you get more inspiration from your early days or like your days now?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I think Texas for me, it doesn't inspire me as much as people assume it does
Okay.
necessarily. I grew up in Houston. Houston's the fourth largest city in America. All four of my grandparents are immigrants. I wasn't like, I was a different kind of Texas guy, not the kind that people think of. I definitely the coast, like the Galveston area, the Texas coast and the hill country do inspire me some, but I don't know. It's not as much of a backdrop as people assume it is. Although my first solo record was called Back Down Home and did have a lot of Gulf Coast themes on it.
Okay. All right. So then we got a little, yeah, we're a little bit
Yeah,
in sync there.
yeah. Where are you at? Where do you live?
I am in Pennsylvania, my friend.
Great,
I'm about an hour and a half west of Philly, about an hour and a half north of Baltimore, about two and a half from New York City. So we're in a real good
great.
pocket of, yeah, it's nice.
I
For
love
airports, it's
Pennsylvania.
great.
Yeah,
For music venues, it's great, because we go down to South by every year for, this was my ninth year going down. So I'm very familiar with your area. I'm sure you've played South by many times, correct?
yes, too many.
What is your experience, and has that experience changed over the years as you've played?
Well, I'll put it this way. I've never sorry, my dog is barking. I've never applied for South by, and I think that's a misconception people have. I've only played South by officially as an official artist when showcases that were being curated asked, and they were official showcases, and they were allowed to pick their bands, asked us to do stuff. The other stuff I've done is unofficial, and so I haven't had necessarily a bad experience, but I there were a few years where Wood and Wire was doing 7 or 8 things in 5 days, and I'll never ever do that again. And that those days of South by are over anyway. So for everyone, I think it's a smaller deal now since COVID, and maybe that's a good thing. It's easy for me. I enjoy it. It's in my backyard, so it's no big deal. So I try to have fun. I'm not spending money to go there, stay in some hotel and play some weird showcase in some weird place that the festival chose for me. So I've been lucky in that regard.
Yeah, I hear it. It has definitely changed since the pandemic. I will grant you that. But I was I think going into this year's, because the convention center being like shut down and all that stuff, I was more probably negative about this year than any other year, but it still hasn't really lost its magic. Like there were still moments, like that made it worth it, and even like the corporate kind of gloom that's kind of overcast. It's still still enough there to push that back.
For sure, for sure. I enjoy it. I don't get to go and explore as much as I did in the past with kids and everything now, but I think it's still it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, when I can see the Bright Light Social Hour at the
Yeah.
Sahara Lounge on a Friday night with like 350 people, like that's like the shit that you love.
Yeah, I'm not negative about it overall. I think a lot of musicians, local musicians especially, are pretty negative about it. I like it. I have great memories of walking around town and going to see bands in small places all day long and late into the nights. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And I think that because it's sort of shrunk down a little, it's even better. So I try to go in with a good attitude and enjoy myself when I get to go.
Yeah.
But
It,
again, I have the privilege of it being in my backyard and not having to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars to go.
yeah, it's nice to be home in 20 minutes, right?
It is. Yeah. Big time.
So I want to know, like for you, being now a performer for so many years, is it difficult for you to go to a concert and like just enjoy it, or are you nitpicking and looking at everything and like dissecting, or kind of like scientifically looking at it?
You've hit a touch point in my marriage, actually, because my wife loves to go to concerts and I can be somewhat of a curmudgeon about it. I want to sit down. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. Like, I want to sit and listen and dial in. And unless I'm really, really excited about a band, I won't go to a big concert. I want to go to local shows on a Tuesday or Wednesday, sit down, get a cocktail, and be comfortable and enjoy it. In my experience, and again, another point of privilege is that I live in Austin, where on Tuesdays and Wednesdays you can see the greatest musicians on earth. So those are my favorite shows, and that's kind of where I'm spoiled in a sense. In addition to being lucky enough to be in the VIP or backstage for so long, but yeah, but if my wife would love to just get a babysitter and go to a show like regular attendees at some once in a while, and have some drinks and stand up and dance, and maybe maybe I should explore that again at some point.
So is her musical taste similar to yours, or you guys got it like in left field and right field?
It's there's some overlap, but there's also some there's also not, so.
Okay.
And I don't think she listened to anything with the banjo until she met me. And so yeah, she just said no. So, but I think she is really open minded about that, and I'm not. I have to be sort of prodded and forced to listen to stuff that I assume I won't like, and a lot of times I'm wrong. Sometimes I do like it.
So this is your first marriage then?
This is my first marriage. That's correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a good question then. So, how you've been in a band, you've been a solo artist, you're now married. Like, what is, being married kind of like being in a band? Like, what are some similarities?
Yeah, communication for sure, which I'm better at in my marriage than I would think I was in the band. But I've gotten better over the years. We've known each other. We've been together for almost 15 years. So she met me before I was a professional musician,
Mhm.
and so our our um, our skills as a couple have gotten better, I should say. And the band, that was a four-way thing, and it was difficult. There's certainly things I did wrong during that time, but I also think I was just inexperienced and ignorant to what it was like to be in that type of a relationship. But overall, I think it was good. It just ended, you know.
Do you think if you would have been in a different city growing up with that band, if that would have changed the outcome, or do you think that actually helped being in Austin?
Well, the difficult thing about being in Austin, the thing that caused the most strain is that Austin is so far from everywhere. And so we had to be on the road a lot. And, living in a van with four guys at first, and then eventually we added a tour manager and a sound guy. That's crowded. And even if you're in a bus, that's usually when you switch to a bus, we never got there. You don't get hotel rooms anymore because you're paying for the bus and you can sleep on it. So it gets even tighter in a sense. That's just hard. Human beings are hard, um, and I think those things that I'm saying, like a lot of time on the road, a lot of decisions having to be made four ways or five ways or however big your band is. That's why bands break up. Creatively, I don't think we ever missed a step. We made some of the best stuff we ever made. Well, we released my favorite record that we made over the during in 2020, and so creatively we were dialed in. That never suffered, in my opinion. And but logistically things are just hard. To That's what most bands, almost all bands, break up. So that's just the way it is, baby.
Yeah, it's like that Dawes song, right? May all your favorite bands stay together.
Absolutely,
And they
absolutely.
couldn't.
I know, I know. Not fully anyway. Yeah,
Right. It's just the brothers left.
exactly. And they dialed it back. Like they do a lot of duo shows, or they'll have like one supplemental person with them,
Yeah.
which is easier. It just is. They're
Hmm.
brothers. Like that's high stakes. They can't really break up completely unless they want to break their families up, and it's not going to happen. They all live in Los Angeles together and have a good thing going. And so I do, in a sense, the band is like a family, but it's also not because it's not unless it is, and the stakes aren't quite as high.
So let's go back to your childhood. So when did you start, thinking that music could be a career for yourself? And when did you start picking up a guitar or piano or whatever musical instrument? Yeah.
I started messing with guitar around 11, and I knew I liked music, but I didn't step on a stage till I was almost 30, till I was like 28 or 29. Had a regular job right out of college selling medical supplies and would still just play and have fun and write songs. And it wasn't until we sort of accidentally started a bluegrass band that it became necessary for me to lead a band anyway. My friend Graham Wilkinson gave me my first job being a sideman with him in 2009, 2010. And I was okay at it. I'm not a great sideman to this day, but I didn't really step on a stage. Um, and by the way, the first time I stepped on a stage with Graham, I was a nervous wreck and a mess. And I was so green when Wood and Wire formed, and the other guys in the band, Dom Fisher, Trevor Smith, and at the time Matt Slusher on mandolin, were very experienced at it. So, God bless them for dealing with my ignorance and stage fright and intensity, I guess. But it was a beautiful time, and we were all so young and having a good time.
Yeah, and from a band dynamic, that's kind of odd too, because usually it's the lead singer that's kind of like the bombastic one, and let's go, guys, let's go. And it's like the other band members that might be a little timid. To have that like reversal, I'm sure that was a little bit more monumentous for you, correct?
Definitely, definitely, yeah. I mean, it's hard to put it into words because I was really just learning everything on the fly, musically, especially. Those guys were all so good, and I was still learning how to play lead like that style of music on guitar. Rhythm bluegrass guitar is hard, and the leads are even harder. But I could sing, so that's kind of where I would be able to keep up. And I'm really thankful for specifically Dom Fisher, the bass player, because he was a jazz studies major at Ithaca College, very competitive program. He had some incredibly tough teachers, and he was extremely educated in it. And he was also really honest and still is to this day, and had the courage to tell me where I needed to work and practice in that. And I was speeding up and not keeping time, and speeding up during my solos, which is really common. And you know, and I was hard to hear during that time because I was young and whatever. But he was right, and I'm glad that he had the courage to tell me that.
Was there no one else that did, or was it that like was it him that made it that more important to like to hear it from him?
No one else did,
Okay.
and I think that's the natural human place, is just to be non-confrontational.
Mm.
But he knew, he had gone to music school and knew the importance and the value of. He knew that you get blinders on,
Mm.
and you think you're doing things right in the moment, but there's other ears around you hearing and feeling it differently, and you have to be told, or else you won't fix it,
Yeah.
or you have to hear it on a recording. And so I think that's something I really appreciate out of him, and it hurt a little, honestly, but our relationship grew to where we could communicate that stuff in a better way.
So when you were in the band, was it more fun playing live, or was it more fun, recording in the studio?
I mean, I always prefer playing live, but the studio was a lot of fun too. The studio is fun in a different way, and it's exciting. Um, that's where you can get into some tedious stuff and potentially some difficult conversations about arrangements and decisions you have to make as a band. So I think it's exciting being in the studio, and it's new and it feels fresh. But to this day, like I just want I absolutely prefer playing live. There's a thing that happens where you sort of become one with an audience, as cheesy as that sounds, that you can't really put your finger on, or you can't really compare it to anything else. Some people don't like it, which when I got into this world, I was surprised. So a lot of people don't like playing live. A lot of musicians don't like playing live. I was shocked by that, but I do, and so did my bandmates, and we were really. I can say this because I was only one small part of it, but we were really, really, really good at it. I mean, we played a lot together, and we clicked musically, and our shows were honestly. And I hate to sound braggadocious, but I was just so proud of the work we did to make it so. But our shows were pretty spectacular, looking back on it.
So some of the venues that you enjoyed playing back then when you guys were a band, when you and I guess maybe at your heyday, like what kind of tours were we doing? I mean,
A lot of the excuse me, a lot of the tours we were doing were based on festivals or anchor dates that we'd get. Um, we would go out. The longest we went out was for 3.5 weeks, and we'd only do that once, maybe twice a year on a busy year. And then the other tours would usually be 10 days or a weekend. So we did some really long drives, man. Like, hey, we're gonna go to Colorado for 3 days, literally, and then drive home. And we did that in Colorado. In Kentucky, we did that twice one year. In Tennessee, and so we would do long weekends because eventually Billy Bright joined the band. He and Matt Slusher left the band, and Billy Bright on mandolin, who is to this day my favorite mandolin player. Um, he was a little older than us. He had kids, and he couldn't be gone all the time. Or he honestly, I don't think I couldn't have understood the sacrifices that he made during that time because I didn't have kids.
mm,
But so we did a couple of 3-week tours, but for the most part, we do long weekends, and he'd fly in and out to make it easier on his family. But um, even that was exhausting because we would do it weekends in a row, and we would be driving, and we'd come home for a couple of days and then hit the road again and do 12, 13, 14, 15-hour drives in a day. But we'd usually play festival and then do a couple of gigs around either a festival or concert series. And there were a few markets where we could sell tickets, like Denver. We could sell several hundred tickets, 500, 600 tickets. And we were getting to the point where we could sell more there and in a few other places. But as good as it looked on the internet, we would still play gigs to very few people. And that was a little crushing. Now, if we were doing that now, like we did break up um, probably a little early because of the pandemic, but it would have happened because now I'm seeing, like everyone else is seeing, bands saying, "Hey, we're not doing this anymore." There's no more middle class road warriors. There are, but there aren't very many, and it's kind of sad to see, but I understand. It's even at its best, going out and playing shows for 50, 100 people wasn't quite sustainable for most people unless you're in your 20s and don't need a lot of money.
yeah, I mean it crushes me to hear like when a band breaks up or stops, just recording anything because of finances. When I hear that our wonderful government spending $28 billion
I know.
or it's like, guys, let's just take 1 billion of that and give it to the arts. And like that would satisfy and help out a shit ton of people, like,
Yeah, and I don't know the answer specifically, but I know whatever is going on right now is not sustainable, and we're going to be seeing um, a rapidly increasing number of middle class bands disappear from the national place anyway. And I know that Gen Z is going to shows. They don't. I think it's because they don't plan on buying homes and don't plan on building that type of
yeah.
American dream style wealth or whatever or stuff. So they're spending money on experiences, and I think the bands. I think that's good, but I don't see a lot of acoustic bands that Gen Z are into. I do see some rock bands that they're getting into that I think is awesome, and there's this like sort of resurgence of '90s sounds and electric guitars and electric basses and drums and I find that very encouraging. There's some really good young bands in their 20s, Gen Z bands that are doing that I think are kick ass, and I love seeing that. Unfortunately, my generation, the people who come to my shows, and I'm not going to be attracting Gen Z to my shows, and that's okay. They've got kids or responsibilities, and they're struggling. So, in a different way, and so I'm trying to find a way to build a community around what I do, and that's part of the reason why I made this live record.
Yeah, it seems like though you're to your point, there is this migration now toward like smaller venues. I think like
Yes,
people are not going to pay $300 or $400 to go to a stadium and then pay $60 to park and $20 for a beer. Like
right.
I think people were exhausted of that. Like there's been a breaking point, and you're seeing that. So to your point, I think hopefully that continues in that direction. What have you seen on your end?
Well, I've seen the consolidation of the gig industry by Live Nation and Ticketmaster, and fortunately, the lawsuit that um, recently concluded, the states decided to tell um, the Department of Justice, who gave them a small little slap on the wrist. And I don't want to get too detailed in this. Your listeners may or may not know about this. Essentially, there was a um, class action lawsuit against Live Nation and Ticketmaster, calling them a monopoly by the federal government. And they had been building up that case for a long time, many years. Both administrations were building up a really good case to break up Ticketmaster and Live Nation, which I think it would be a very healthy thing and a good thing for the music industry. But they basically, out of nowhere, the Justice Department went behind the attorneys that were working on it and gave them a slap on the wrist and a fine, which was just a drop on the bucket, something they'd make up in a couple of weeks. But the states involved came back around and said that they wanted to do their own thing, and they won that lawsuit. So I don't know what the result will be, but I know that the result of what has happened in that world is extremely, extremely bad for what we do. And they don't, I think it's a really sad thing to watch. And I think that we have an FCC, and they should have done something a long time ago.
Hmm.
And I wish that they would do more in more industries. But to see it happen in mine was really sad. And it did deeply affect all of us because it raised ticket prices. They raised the Live Nation venues that they took over, raised the price of beers. And then they were predatory and threatening towards other venues and even artists that were big, essentially forcing them to do Live Nation tours. So, yeah, those guys can kiss my ass, frankly.
Yeah.
But I think what it did do is maybe make some people want to create smaller shows on their own, or see a push towards smaller venues, more intimate shows, more personal experiences, at least in my bracket of music. And I think the way it's going, and I'm exploring ideas around this, is artists can make their own tours. And if they can build up their own community and their own audience, they can say, what I'd like to do, and I don't know, I haven't had time to really suss this out, is say, hey, I'm going to find unique places to do small shows, intimate shows, maybe even completely acoustic. Maybe it's like a freaking bookstore or a art gallery or something. And if you want to go, you have to be on my mailing list, email list, or some other sort of exclusive
Mhm.
place, and not only on social media.
Right.
Because there, I can announce a show like that, it'll only show it to 1 or 2% of my audience, and I don't know if they'll even see it. So in any case, I think stuff like that you'll see more of, and I think it's going to be very cool. I don't know what that looks like for me necessarily yet, but I wanted to, even a couple of years ago when I made this live record, I wanted to present to my fans and people who listen to music and to the people Spotify will feed my music to, what that would look like if they come and see me do something like that. And I do a lot of solo shows, and it was important to me that actually I almost only do solo shows now. So it was important to me to have a listenable example of that for people to hear and hopefully experience what it feels like to be in the room so I can do more.
The biggest thing I think that the government could do to Live Nation just immediately, with disregarding the lawsuit and all this other stuff that's surrounding it, is if they just took away the radius clauses. Because, like, I've talked to so many promoters that can't get bands because they're 60 miles from Philly or 90 miles from New York, or, if there's a music festival, they have like their own clauses, like that they can't perform. I think that would really, really take away a lot of these problems because it would level the playing field a little bit more.
I think there's some truth to that. I'm actually a fan of the radius clause at an independent venue because they need people in the door.
Hmm.
If you're going to do a show, and if you're popular enough, it doesn't make sense to me to do a show close to the same town
Hmm.
the same weekend. Then you're going to split the ticket, and it's going to hurt an independent venue. Now, I think that there's an argument to be made with Live Nation and a big corporate show and festivals that are definitely going to sell out for radius clauses to be waived in certain instances, like maybe a last minute secret show, or if the show sells out, then they are allowed to do something else somewhere else. But as far as I think a radius clause, a reasonable radius clause in a mid-level market at an independent venue that needs people in the door is a very reasonable thing, in my opinion,
Yeah.
personally.
So let's talk
And
about
also,
oh,
festivals are suffering. So if a small, medium-sized festival, those are going to the grave, by the dozens, it seems like right now.
yeah.
I hear about it every summer, several festivals saying we're not doing this next year. And it's sad. The festival that I recorded, and the final track on this record, and I know you want to talk about it, is a
Yeah.
cover of Golden by My Morning Jacket. I recorded that on a little Bluetooth speaker in a cave at 2:30 in the morning at a festival called the River Revival in New Braunfels, Texas, and this is their final year. And they're not doing it anymore. And so I think that in order for these independent festivals to survive and independent venues to survive, I think radius clauses are fairly reasonable. But I think there are exceptions to that if you're willing to communicate with the artist and with the promoter.
I've not been to Kerrville Folk Festival. Have you been there? Have you performed it? And tell us about that experience.
Definitely, it's legendary. And what I've witnessed is in Kerrville is this festival that's been going on since the '60s, I guess, a long time. I don't even know when it started. That's gone up and down. And there have been years where they thought maybe it wouldn't work anymore. There have been several festival directors that have all worked really hard. But what I see is like generational movement, people of all ages going and continuing the traditions. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's 28 days or something. It's a long festival. And if you play towards the end, you get a sense of the people that have been there the entire time, and it almost feels, for lack of a better word, like a cult, and that's not the case at all. And I shouldn't have used that word. I regret saying it already, but they're saying is welcome home when you go there. So it kind of evokes a little bit of a smirk when you get there towards the end, and people are looking pretty crusty and tired, and they're like, "Welcome home." But it's a beautiful, beautiful festival, and I'm glad it's still going, and I look forward to playing it for years to come.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've heard bands that are from Texas tell me that, you can basically tour the state of Texas and live off that and not leave the state, like talk about that. Like, I mean, is that like a reality even in today's like landscape?
Yes, it is. If you live a certain way, if you don't need a ton of money, and also there's other genres like Texas country artists for sure. Red dirt artists can for sure stay between Texas and Oklahoma and make their living, and they largely do. Most of them, and I'm not in that category. I haven't been able to. I guess it is true. You can do that, especially in Austin, if you play. Someone like me would have to play 4 or 5 nights a week in order to make that work. That's not feasible for me and my family, and one of the reasons why we have a painting business as well. I'd rather play the gigs I want to play that are meaningful. Um, there are a lot of gigs I play that I enjoy in Austin. That there's a lot of bluegrass nights where I get together with my friends that I've been picking tunes with for years, and we perform on a stage together and just call out songs and jam. Those I will always do. But there's a litany of other types of gigs: brewery gigs, random playing in the corner type of gigs. If you're a sideman, you could play for 5 different people 5 nights a week. I'm not interested in doing that all the time. I'd like to do the gigs that are more meaningful and feel good, and do the occasional ticketed full band gig, and then do meaningful solo gigs in Texas and beyond when it makes sense. And then also the duo I mentioned. I have a duo with Kim Warner. He's a fantastic mandolin player. Uh, that is the next thing I see doing tours on, like short tours, weekend tours, and festivals with. It's pretty compelling performance that we're trying to put together. He's an amazing player and challenges me. So that's kind of the way I'd like to lay it out. And then when I'm home, I'm trying to sell paint jobs and taking care of people's houses. I like it.
So yeah, I mean that's a good segue. Like, how do you manage? And you said, off camera that time management's not one of your strengths. And as a musician, I think that is a pretty fair parallel. How do you manage that? And do you feel like you've kind of gotten better, or has it kind of been stagnant?
I suck at it, man. I suck at it so bad. I'm really bad at time management, and I need to work on it. I think I'm getting a little bit better. Uh, I I can't like, I'm really bad at turning my brain off, and now the it almost feels like the music side I've been able to relax, because I'm not, our financial lives don't hinge on it. So I think creatively that's helping me a lot. Um, but now I'm constantly trying. Now my brain is occupied in a logistical way, trying to figure out how to make this business work. And I'm not a good salesman. I don't like sales, and I don't. Um, I'm trying to get better. My brain. I get stressed out about it, and I'm not good at managing my thoughts around it. So in the middle of the night, I'll have a thought, and I'll have to deal with it, or else I won't go to sleep.
So
Things like
social
that.
media, how do we approach social media? Because obviously this art that we do is a commodity, and
Hmm.
to go along with that, social media seems to be like one of the ways you can make that art a better commodity. How do you approach that?
I'm still figuring that out, but I am definitely trying to be more sustainable about it. I'm just not going to post every day. I'm not going to do it. That's going to drive me nuts. But I try to gather up clips and make and make as many as I can so that they're sort of in the holster to post twice a week. And that's about all I want to do. Last year, the last couple of years, I got real involved with TikTok. And the only way to really sustain that is to post almost every day. And I got just tired of it. And there's a way you could do it where it doesn't take up a lot of time, but it also occupies space in your brain. There's like a whole psychological reward system or whatever that it takes up, and I don't like the feeling, and it's not good for mental health, and people know that. It's obvious. Social media is horrible. It's has done nothing but bad things. I shouldn't say nothing. It's mostly been bad. It's caused a serious mental health crisis in our world. And I do think that the younger generations are going to reject a lot of it. And I look forward to that. I wish that was going to be the case for my generation. But no, I see people my age being, and a little bit younger, being heavily addicted for basically the rest of our lives. But I hope to see the younger generations unplug and find a better way of doing it. So for me now, I just try to post a couple times a week, and once I have a little more mental space, I'm going to try to find a way to curate a community around what I do, of the people that actually want to be a part of it and want to learn where they could see these smaller shows, and in a place where every time I make something, I reach everyone, instead of begging Instagram to show it to 5% of my audience instead of 2.
Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of like Patreon and volume.com where like, you can kind of have these subscription based kind of like for music and, for your true fans to really kind of, get like a little bit more, in depth. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
The house
Yeah.
shows too, I think are a great idea for bands, getting like fans to like host shows and, you sell 50 tickets and,
Yeah.
your overhead's very super low. It's just a real intimate experience, kind of like this live album, right?
Definitely. And I've done countless house shows
Yeah.
over the years. They're easily one of my favorite ways to perform, and you get to connect with the people, and you get to usually make good money, and you get to perform for a captive audience, which is a beautiful thing. House shows are typically run by people in their 50s and 60s, but I've been seeing and attended by people in that age bracket too, which I love, and that's not a dig at all. I prefer in a lot of ways playing for older folks. I'm starting to see a trend. Excuse me. I'm starting to see a trend of younger people my age in their early 40s, mid 30s, even younger, late 20s, early 30s, putting on house shows. And I think that's an important trend that needs to be nurtured and encouraged. Because I think that those are that age group of people could throw some really, really cool house shows. And maybe they don't know it, maybe they need to see it. A friend of mine just threw his first one. He's my age. He's 42. And the attendees were mostly in their 30s and late 20s. And everyone, for most of them, was their first one. And they absolutely love the experience. And I think that people that age, if they just went to one and saw it, they would kind of go, this is the way I want to see music from now on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you're familiar with the band West Texas Exiles.
Mm-hmm.
So they did their first East Coast tour in April. And so I reached out to them and I was like, guys, you're playing in Philly, you're playing in Elkton. Why don't you just crash at our place, And so sure enough, we had all 6 of them stay at our house for 2 nights.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I
Beautiful.
mean, yeah, the amount of money that they saved, like
Oh yeah.
it's so stupid how much money like hotels and all of that stuff are. It just adds up.
Those guys are so good. I love that band. And I'm glad they're out there doing it. They're all really, really good guys too.
Yeah, they are. I mean, talk about it, like the scene in Austin. Like, I think, from a national standpoint, I think people appreciate the scene, but they don't really know the bands. I mean, there are so many good bands that are up and coming in Austin. Like, it's stupid. Like, and it's all genres too. It's not just rock and roll. I mean, it's country, it's bluegrass,
Hmm.
it's, talk about the scene and like, and how much you're in tune with it.
It's always I moved here in 2002, and from the beginning, as I was just a rabid local music fan, and anytime a band was coming through, before the days where I wanted to sit down, I would get there early and make sure I was in the front. And Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, I'd go see the residencies. Bob Schneider would play every Wednesday at Antone's, and James McMurtry played the Continental Club every week. And there was countless other types of residencies. There was a hip hop band back then called Boombox that would play. I don't remember, Thursday nights or something. And, I mean, every night I was out seeing music,
Mm.
and so when I started to become part of the scene as a musician, it was an incredible thing to witness through that lens, and how everybody knew each other and would help each other, and you know getting to know the people who I used to go see all the time was a cool thing. And now that I'm frankly becoming, you know, one of the elder statesmen, I guess. Or I don't. It doesn't feel that way until I get around some of the younger bands, and they tell me, oh, I used to listen to Wood and Wire when I was in, sixth grade or something. It was fun, or fifth. I don't know. It didn't feel like I was that old until I meet some of these younger um, uh, people. But I feel a responsibility to be encouraging and help them when I can, like
Mhm.
some of these older guys like Ray Wiley Hubbard, Bruce Robinson, and some of these other guys helped me. And um, it's a really special scene, and it is somewhat uh, it's unique. It's unique to the folks in Nashville. It's unique,
Mhm.
it's unique compared to the scene in Nashville. Unique compared to the scene in New York or Los Angeles or elsewhere. And it's pretty varied. There's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of really good indie rock bands here now
Yeah.
that I'm trying to stay up on and to learn about, and to get a feel outside of just Americana and bluegrass and country, um, because I want to know who they're at, who's doing it, and what they sound like. And it's difficult because I live 30 miles from Austin now, and I have a family, which I'm thankful for. But I am a little out of the loop, and I do miss going out to see the local shows often. But I also feel quite comfortable at home, getting in bed at 9 o'clock, and watching a show or something with my wife. It's
Netflix
exhausting.
and
Like
chill, right?
it's exhausting. I mean, it's hard to even fathom, getting out of the house after the kids are asleep. And I know that sounds like some old man shit, but it's true.
I hear you. The venue that I miss in Austin is Threadgills. That was one of my favorite venues, and we luckily got to see before Uncle Lucius re-retired,
Yeah.
unretired. We got to see their final show there, and man, that place. There's just something about Threadgills that I just really liked. Did you get to spend time there? Or did you get to play there ever?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I played both Red Gills over the years. There's a
Yeah.
north location that had a small, really cool, intimate room in the back, and then the main location, downtown. That outdoor uh, um, stage was fantastic, and they also had a smaller, intimate room in the back of that one too. A legendary spot that sat on the same property as the uh, Armadillo Palace, which was maybe the most legendary over the course of Austin's history, the most important and legendary venue. Um, it'll never be topped, I don't think, because that was the seeding grounds. That was the soil that um, put this town on the path that it's at today.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. So let's talk about this album that is releasing in what, 2 weeks, right? June 5th?
Correct. Yeah. So and I did it in three sets.
Yeah.
So I released the first set a month and a half ago, released the other set set 2 weeks ago, I guess, and then the next one will come out in 2 weeks. I wasn't sure how to do it. I didn't really want to do a whole bunch of singles. Live records are kind of weird for people. They don't get a ton of traction in the algorithms or whatever. So I didn't see a lot of value in like releasing singles for a year before the whole record comes out.
Hmm.
And I wanted to test the waters and see how it went. It's going fine, you know. The last set releases on June 5th, I think. And so in 2024, I basically gathered 30 people, put them in the studio that I recorded my two solo records in, and set up chairs. We set up the same mics, some of the same mics we used on those records, and we recorded a live performance to tape. We filmed the whole thing too. I haven't had time to edit it all, but I do have it on film, and it ended up being a really cool night, and it kind of came together in a odd last minute way. I have a group of guys, Randy and his friends, that really came through to fill the room for me. But it was a special night, and it kind of ebbed and flowed. At the beginning, I was a little stiff and loosened up, and that's pretty normal for me on any performance. And so I feel that when I listen back to it, and I haven't in a long time. But so we played. I probably cut three or four songs maybe total, and cut out some of my gibberish, you know, that I said between some songs to tighten it up a little bit. But for the most part, it's exactly what happened, start to finish, and sounds really good. I'm really proud of the tones on it, as I am of the other stuff we've recorded in that studio. And the vibe is good, and it's just me. So I wanted to present that to my fans and hopefully make some new ones that way too.
It's got that storyteller's vibe that, you remember from back in the day when MTV used to do that kind of the unplugged stuff, the VH1. You know, I think that is something that's missing with a lot of artists. Even when I go to concerts today, like very rarely do you hear the artist say anything about the song other than either it's the name of the song. Like that's usually what you get. Do you feel like that's a missing kind of part of like the live experience that artists can really kind of capture?
Yeah, in the right setting for sure. In the right setting for sure. And those intimate settings, it's always been really important to me to be able to tell the stories, but leave a little bit of mystery and not talk too much. I'm not like a John Craigie or Todd Snyder or Ramblin' Jack Elliott. I try to keep it pretty concise and add a little bit of humor where it's appropriate, um, and and stay open to the crowd interacting a little bit too and reacting to them. Uh, but I think it's a really, really important part of an intimate show. If you're at a jam band show, you don't want that. You want to dance, have a good time. My full band shows, I keep that extremely limited, but it's still in there somewhere. Um, but as far as my solo shows, intimate shows go, it's a very important part of it, and I practice it. I literally practice the stories. I say them out loud. I tighten them up. I write them down, and but I always keep some part of it open to changing on the fly, or welcoming in someone from the audience to contribute if it's appropriate.
Yeah. So,
But I will say,
yeah.
I do think it's missing. But what I think is missing from it is a lot of folk artists. I guess I think this is really at its heart a folk record. Um, they don't. It takes them a minute to learn that they need to practice that part of it. If they go see Hayes Carl, he tells the stories and he actually works on them. And same with those other guys I mentioned earlier. So anyway, continue. I cut you off there.
No, 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 that's an important piece, though. I'm glad you said that. So I want to know then, being a father of a 5-year-old now, you have a 3-month son, do you feel like if you started writing music right now, would those topics kind of be part of it, or would you kind of keep that out of the music?
I don't know. my daughter has a couple of songs on "We're All Gonna Live," the record I put out last year. There's two songs in there specifically dedicated to her.
Okay.
So
So the precedent's
I
already there.
imagine,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I imagine just naturally for me, I kind of write about what's going on around me or stories that I witness around me that aren't necessarily about me.
Mhm.
So yes, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Just I try to avoid it some. I don't really, I don't want it to be too obvious. I guess I don't know. I want to
Yeah.
be a unique storyteller and write about unique things. Sometimes that just isn't going to happen.
Yeah. Picking the kid up from the school bus, right?
Right. It's not the most exciting subject matter. It can be more challenging to make interesting.
Yeah. So you mentioned the "We're All Gonna Live" album. The album cover, if our audience has not seen it, it is quite unique, and I hope that you weren't physically injured in the making of this album cover. But please share this story.
Well, it's makeup, so don't worry. I tell people when I was doing promo for that record, I got beat up by a makeup artist. Um, but I was just trying to welcome a little more um, openness to being more artistic in other ways. The theme of that record is, um, if I say it too simply, it seems cliche, but I had just been through a bunch of stuff that knocked me around, and my grandmother. This was years ago before she was gone, and my dad was sick, and my brother was expecting a baby unexpectedly, and she said, eventually, life starts to knock you around, and you have to be ready to fight with a smile. And so that stuck with me, and that's why I look like that. Because I also, for your listeners who haven't seen it, have a shit-eating grin on my face, even though I got a black eye and a bloody nose and a bloody lip.
Yeah, I mean it is a very powerful statement for an album cover.
Thank you, and excuse my language, by the way. But and I actually underestimated. Um, it triggered some people, maybe some people who had been in abusive relationships or had been beat up or something. I didn't expect that, and it was a little violent, and I think it hurt me on the playlist side of Spotify, like the violent nature of the cover sort of triggered them to not put it on playlists. I think, and I think that and I am really 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 proud of the songs and the recording. We worked really hard on every aspect of that record, and the record company that put it out, Blue Corn Music, I'm indebted to them greatly for putting it out with me, and I love those guys, and for their sake and mine, I was hoping it would expand out and reach more people. It didn't, but the people that listen to it are really into it, and that I can be proud of, and it's kind of all I can expect, really. I think every artist that makes stuff, their latest thing is their favorite thing they did, but I can say like that record, I'm extremely proud of, and hope that more people eventually find it.
Well, I told you before we started recording, it's fantastic. Every song is so good. Like it's just a complete album, and you should be so proud of that record. And it does make me look forward to what you've got in store, you know?
Thanks, Dog. I appreciate that. It'll be a little bit before I do another full length record under my own name. We got this live record that I'm also extremely proud of for different reasons, and the duo record I finished with Kim Warner is a very very cool recording. It's pretty nerdy. There's a lot more picking on it, a lot of outside musical concepts on it, and it's I'm excited to showcase that side of what I like to do, and especially excited for people to get a better feel for what Kim does. He's a remarkable musician and mandolin player and writer.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, the bluegrass genre in its whole, because obviously I don't know of any other genre of music where one person has literally risen the entire ocean of like the genre, like Billy Strings has. Talk about that, because you're on that side of it. Talk about like his impact on the genre itself.
I love Billy. We came up around the same time. Wood and Wire was doing festivals. Basically, every festival in 2015 and 2016, Billy was doing with Don Julian in his first outfit. He was with a
Right.
mandolin player called Don Julian as a duo, and eventually added this guy Kevin on bass, and they were great. And Billy was like 20, 21, maybe 19 at the time, and obviously when he first came onto the scene, everyone knew that he was amazing. And but what I think people don't know about Billy is that, and I think maybe they do now, is he's a very, very good, loyal person. In addition to, he's as good a person as he is a musician, and we're not close friends by any means, but we're acquaintances. And his manager, Bill Orner, he lives here in Austin, and I've been friends with Bill for a long time. And Bill has been his manager since the beginning, basically. Once Billy left the or went off on his own from Don Julian and started his own thing, he went through a few band members, but eventually settled into the band he has now, with Billy Failing and Jared Walker and Royal Massat on bass, and they added the fiddle player later, who's fantastic. And he's had those three guys, Royal, Billy, and Jared, essentially for all intents and purposes since just after the beginning of his going on his own. And Bill was the manager at the very beginning, and he still is. So he's extreme, and he has the same booking agent too. And he could have just gone with some other, and I think other people have come in to help, but all those people are still on his team. And that booking agent, he could have gone to some big, corporate booking agency, but he didn't. He could have gotten a big corporate management team, but he didn't. And it didn't slow him down one bit. And I think that's a lesson people can learn. And it's been a beautiful thing to watch. It's a really cool thing to see bluegrass and that style of music be so far into the pop culture sphere, or something, for lack of a better word. I mean, Billy is extremely famous now. Everyone knows his name and knows what he does. And he did that on his own, with the help of all these other people, obviously, but he did that without sort of selling out in certain ways. So I hope people know that about him.
Yeah. So,
And he's refunded millions of dollars in tickets. Like he had a baby a couple of years ago and had to leave his festival that he throws, and he basically refunded everyone's tickets, but the festival still happened. Everyone else played in his stead. Like John Stickley played with his band during his set, but the people in his mind, the people didn't get what they came for, so he just refunded them all their tickets. He broke his leg about a month ago, unfortunately, and he's going to reschedule all those shows, and so he's a good guy.
so I mean, is it the songwriting? Is it the music playing? Like, what is it about him that you think just really like transcended everything?
All the above.
Okay.
He writes good songs, but he doesn't only write. He doesn't. He reaches out to other songwriters to help him make the songs better. There's a guy named John Weisberger in North Carolina, who's a excellent songwriter, and he and Billy work on songs together some, and other people. And he leans on his band at the shows. They're all excellent musicians, and he's a really, really, really good live performer. And these are all things beyond the obvious, which is that he's an amazing singer and guitar player. It's all the above. And then he also just has a thing that you kind of need, I think, to get to that level, which is he has an interesting story. He is an interesting looking guy with his tattoos and stuff, and he's a genuine person. So it's a combination of everything. And then uh, uh, he also practices a lot, and he still takes lessons from people that can do things that he can't. And so I think it's all the above, really.
Yeah.
Um, it's a combination of timing too. I'm sure everyone is a little lucky, and I'm sure he'd tell you that
Right.
he got lucky in some places and met the right people, but that's a small part of it compared to all that other stuff.
Well, it's nice that a genre like that is getting some attention. Not that other genres shouldn't get the attention as well, but I think that it is long overdue. Um,
Yeah, and I think it's also fair to say it is great for the bluegrass genre, but Billy Strings fans are Billy Strings fans. You know what I mean? Like I don't. There's a percentage of them that
Cross-pollinate.
yeah, cross
Yeah.
pollinate and go into the deeper into the bluegrass world. There's some great bands that are coming up. Obviously, Molly Tuttle, she's expanded into other genres.
Mhm.
Mountain Grass Unit,
Yeah.
a group of really young guys, a couple of Berkeley guys that are in their 20s, that I think are really benefiting from
Mhm.
the Billy Strings phenomena. And but the rising tide lifts all boats is definitely true in the genre as a whole.
Mhm.
But I think that for the most part, his fans are so loyal. Like I think there's a lot of those guys that are like, I don't like bluegrass, but I love Billy Strings.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's fair, a fair point. Bluegrass is pretty unique, and the way he does it
Yeah.
is unique within the genre.
Yeah, that is cool. So let's talk about these Walker Lucan shows coming up in June. Any other tour dates then that you can talk about for the rest of the year, or?
Yeah, there's Kim and I are going to start doing release shows in the late summer, early fall. We'll have be in Houston and stuff at a later date. But we'll doing co-bills with Walker Lukens on June 19th in Austin at Seaboys and June 20th in Houston at Dan Electros. I'll have a full band. I'll have the drummer, bass, and fiddle and mandolin player. Full band shows are so much fun and different, and I try to make each one different, and which is hard because I don't have a consistent band. Like I only do a few full band shows a year, so I've been stressed as hell about it, honestly, but very much looking forward to it.
Yeah. Is that Sea Boys inside, or are you going to be outside there?
Inside, and it's small.
Yeah.
I don't know what the tickets are at, but it'll sell out. It only holds like 150 people
Yeah.
at the most, and yeah, that was one of our goals was just to play a venue that felt good and intimate and small and fun.
Mm.
We explored the idea of doing a bigger venue, but we didn't want to. Seaboys is a legendary Austin venue in a legendary Austin building. It used to be this old sports bar where you could smoke in, and then the guy who owns the Continental Club, Steve Wertheimer, bought it and made Seaboys, and it's just a wonderful little room. It's so much fun.
Yeah. So I got to ask you, living in Austin, or well, living in Dripping Springs, what's our favorite barbecue?
Yeah. Um, so I'm actually I'm not a big barbecue guy, maybe because I grew up in Texas and I've played so many private gigs and corporate gigs and weddings, and every single time it's barbecue. I have a couple, so I'll put it this way,
Yeah.
and they're one of them. They're kind of based on my upbringing in a sense. I'm from Houston, and I don't know how Houston people feel about this, but my favorite barbecue in Houston is Good Company Barbecue, and it's it's grown over the years. They have multiple locations and multiple other restaurants like Good Company Seafood and Cantina and stuff. But their sauce, I love their sauce. It's a really unique sauce, and their brisket's good, really good. Now, the other thing I'll say is I'm gonna make sure I get it right, but there are a lot of barbecue has become such a thing. Here I'm looking it up because I want to get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my grandparents on my dad's side are Lebanese, And there's a barbecue place in Austin called KG Barbecue. It's I don't know if he has brick and mortar. He may just have a food truck, but he's become pretty well known. Uh, and his whole thing, and this is my beef with barbecue, is that it's so heavy. The meat you're gonna couple these huge, delicious, salty, greasy meats with beans and potato salad and these heavy sides. Well, what he does, this guy's from Egypt, and he, which Egyptian, although Egypt's in Africa and Lebanon is in the Middle East, it's still they're close by and they share a lot of the same cuisine or similar cuisine,
Okay.
and a lot of Arab cultural crossover, and especially in the food. And the sides he makes are light and airy and delicious and based on Middle Eastern and Egyptian stuff, as opposed to like heavy potato salad and stuff.
Yeah.
He's got like cucumber and tomato salad with certain spices that Middle Eastern spices and pickled onions and all kinds of other really good sides that really pair better with these smoked meats, I think, than traditional barbecue sides. And maybe that's blasphemous. I don't really give a shit. I think barbecue is a little overrated overall. But that comes from a
So
guy
expensive now too. My
so
God.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this comes from a guy that's been force fed it his entire life, and I think it's really good. But I only have it once a quarter or so.
Yeah. I mean, living in Pennsylvania, we don't have much good options. So like when I go to down there, it is kind of like 5 out of 7 nights we're eating.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair, man. I get that.
Um,
I also
yeah,
like growing up in Houston, like, and having my mom's parents were from Sicily, so I grew up on a lot of Italian and Middle Eastern food. And then in addition to that, my high school was in Chinatown in Houston, so I'd go to all these really good hole in the wall Asian places, Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean places. And I just and there are a lot of people that will tell you Texas has excellent Mexican food. It's not my favorite, but I think those things are don't get looked at enough in Texas. Texas is an extremely diverse state with a lot of people from a lot of places, and there's some really, really good, authentic international foods. And maybe that doesn't make sense, but I think it's some of the best food in the world.
San Antonio has a lot of good
Oh
spots.
man, yeah, no doubt. And my wife's from San Antonio, and she'll
Yeah.
tell you her favorites.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, Mr. Tony, thank you so much for doing this. Hopefully, it was not too long of an interview and we didn't waste too much of your time, but I
Not at all,
appreciate
man.
it.
It's a pleasure. Please. I thank you for supporting us mid-level musicians and those of us trying to get the word out. And I hope your fans will check out Live from the Bunker. If you like, a, a live folk record with guitar that has some banjo and harmonica on it too, I think you'll dig it.
And great stories, right? I mean, you can't
I hope
replace
so.
that.
I
Yeah.
hope so.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us and helps the artists like Tony. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR. Outfitters.com. Don't just wear, RAR. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Dogg. You've been great. This is the Music Lab Podcast.